All right, hello boys and girls. So I decided I was going to make a video for this part to help you guys out with the next step of our California relief map. At this point, yours should look something like mine, even though a lot of yours looked a lot better than mine. So you should have your California relief map made with the dough, painted all the 4 different regions. You should have, everything's kind of backwards on my camera right now because I'm using my webcam because my assistant's not here. So you should have your key down here at the bottom, and then your compass rose as well. And then also I have all my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tribes and their where they are on the map and what region they're in labeled here. For the Northern Paiute boys and girls, they were down here in the desert, but they also were up here because they were in the Great Basin, which is this big part of the United States that we can't see on our California map. So I put mine down here, but if some of you put them up here, that's fine. But just know that they are in the desert region, not the mountain region. So now that I have this done, it's time for me to think about my presentation. I'm going to put the code for Flipgrid under here. It is all under this video. It is also on Schoology. But before you do your presentation, you need to make sure that you write out what you're going to say. So to figure out what you're going to say, let's see if this works. Everything's backwards. You're going to be looking at your California relief map paper that we have gone over a bunch of times. So these are all the different steps that you've already done by now. Let's see, will this work? Yeah. Okay. So what I want you guys to look at, I want you to look at the rubric. So this is the rubric. This is on Schoology, boys and girls, under social studies. I also added it to our update page. It's all over Schoology, and you guys should have it in your emails too. So make sure you go over your rubric and check off to make sure you have everything done that you need to have done. So you have your salt dough, and you have your 4 regions painted, you have your key, you have the location of each tribe labeled, and then this part is what you're going to have to focus on during your presentation. During the presentation, you answered the question, how did California's geography influence the lives of people long ago? Now, when we're talking about geography, as we talked about in class, geography is how the land is. So if the geography, it could have mountains, it could be in the Central Valley, could be desert. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the regions, but within those regions, there's different resources that we talked about, different natural resources, different plants grow in different regions, and that is affected by geography, and that affects the indigenous people and how they lived. So we'll go over that in a little bit. And then, so you need to answer that question. You need to make sure that question is answered in your presentation. If it's not answered, you will not get full credit for it. And then during the presentation, you need to describe at least one characteristic of each tribe's culture. So that was completed, boys and girls, in your early people's chart. So we can look at Matthew's right here. Remember this chart? It is under social studies. If you don't remember where it is, it's under social studies. It's called Unit 1 Early People's Chart. And we together as a class and with partners and on your own filled this out. And on this chart, you have at least 3 different aspects of each tribe's culture. So all you have to do is take at least one thing from this chart for each tribe and describe it while you're going through your map. And I will show you an example of that. Okay, and then, let's see, we're going to scroll down, and then presentation guidelines. For your presentation, you will need to explain how California's geography influenced the lives of people long ago. How did the tribes living in different regions, desert, Central Valley, coast, mountains, affect their culture? How did living in these places affect how they lived, affect their culture? Give examples for each tribe: the Chumash, the Yokuts, the Northern Paiute, the Mojave, the Yurok, and the Modoc. Be sure to point out the different regions on the map and point out the location of each tribe. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of that. Oh, that doesn't work. And we're going to be doing that on Flipgrid. Okay, so I'm you, and I'm like, okay, I know what I need, so I'm going to take out a pen and paper. All right, and I'm going to write down, got my pen, here's my paper, and I'm going to take some time to figure out what I'm going to write down. I'm going to read it, I'm going to practice. You can practice to yourself in the mirror, you can practice to your parents. There's lots of ways to practice, but we are doing this digitally. It's on Flipgrid, so if you don't like it, you can redo it. But I want you guys to treat this like it's a normal presentation where you practice before you do it, right? So let me give you an example. I'm going to also put an example on Flipgrid for me presenting. But right now, I'll add it to this video too. Okay, so when I'm presenting, you should be standing up, but I'm sitting down right now. And you're going to have your map in view for me to see. You're going to hold it up like this so I can see it. And then as you go along, you're going to be pointing to the different regions. So your presentation could sound a little bit like this. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to do a little bit. Hello, everyone. My name is Miss Ellsworth, and here is my California relief map. As you can see on my map, there are 4 different regions, and I labeled them with different colors, as you can see in my key. I'm going to go through each region with you right now. The first region is pink, and it is the coastal region. The purple region that you can see here is the mountain region. The yellow represents the Central Valley region, and the green represents the desert region. You can see in my relief map that my mountains are actually elevated up, just like they are in real life. There are lots of early people that lived in California, and there are 6 tribes that we looked at. The first tribe that I want to talk to you about is the Chumash. They lived in the coastal region. Something about the Chumash, about their culture, is that they make canoes out of redwood. The way the geography affected the early people in California, like the Chumash, is that since the redwoods only are growing on the coast, and that is where the Chumash lived, that affected how they built their canoes. Because without the redwood trees, without living on the coast, they wouldn't have been able to build canoes like they did. So that's my example. So you're going to be doing that for each tribe. You're going to talk about the Mojave, Northern Paiute, the Yokuts, the Modoc, and the Yurok. We made a list of things that have to do with their culture. You need to connect that to where they live. So certain cultures built homes kind of underground because it was really hot during some times, and it was really cold during other times, and the ground helped them with that. Some tribes moved around a lot because the weather was so bad. Some tribes used irrigation to help them grow crops. There's some tribes built their homes certain ways because there was so much rain. That has to do with where they lived. That had an impact on their culture. That was an impact on the early people that lived in California. So you need to tie all of that in when you're giving your presentation. So my suggestion would be to go one by one, go each tribe at a time, talk about where they lived, what region they lived in, give me at least one aspect of their culture, and describe to me how where they lived and that aspect of their culture, how they were connected. Because the weather was like this, they had to do this. Because the trees grew here, they ate these sort of nuts. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for those connections. And then you're going to put this on Flipgrid, and then we'll kind of I'm going to show some of the presentations, and we can talk about that later. But this is what I want you guys to work on right now. I'm just giving you an example, so when you're writing it out, you have a firmer example of what it's going to look like. All right, so the Flipgrid link is down here. Remember, you need to write out your what you want to say before you present it. And I'm going to do a mock presentation on Flipgrid tomorrow, but I'm just putting this here now for you guys to refer to as well, because it looks like you guys needed a little bit of help. All righty, good job, everyone.